Sunday morning, Corme-Royal, Sunday morning market.
The plan for today is to see some more Romanesque churches, but also to see the Ile d'Oléron. This is the church of Saint-Nazaire, Romanesque but altered and fortified in the 15th century. This church is said to show the finest example of the Saint-Ange sermon. The decoration takes place on the curves of the arcading, the cornices and the horizontal string courses. The struggle between virtues and vices, a scene with the foolish virgins with their empty oil lamps, while the wise virgins have the doors of paradise open. This church was once part of an important priory, which came under the authority of the Abbey aux Dames at Saintes. Whilst you're absorbing all these important messages from the 11th and 12th centuries, can I just remind you that after we've finished here we're going to be heading west towards the Ile d'Oléron. We will get onto that island by driving over a 3-kilometre long bridge, which we'll see later. But just before that we'll have a look at Brouage. Brouage was once an important port and had strong fortifications, some of which we'll see later. In 1658, Mazarin exiled to this remote stronghold his niece Marie Mancini, with whom Louis XIV had fallen passionately in love.
We're in Brouage, here Brouage, which apparently used to be right on the coast, hence the fortifications. A caravan park here if anybody's interested. Followed signs just past the fortress there to Le Port, the port, so whether this is it I don't know.
The church in Brouage was restored by the people of Quebec for reasons which may become apparent, and it looks as though it's being restored again. Richelieu used Brouage as his base of operations during his siege of La Rochelle, which we'll see later.
Now there you are, you see, Samuel Champlain, who founded Quebec, was born here.
And that could explain why if you went in a cafe there were always 2 clocks, one on Quebec time. And whilst we're having a last look at the ramparts of Brouage, I could explain that in this area there are a lot of salt pans where salt is extracted from seawater. But we come now to the bridge which connects the mainland with the Ile d'Oléron.
Et aujourd'hui, donc, on sera dans ce Xinjiang dont je disais. Un peu l'identité ouïghour.
Now, if you think that icon of Frenchness, the big black citron, is no more, you should see what I saw once I got onto the island. Perhaps one of them was Maigret.
Well, this is Saint-Pierre-d'Oléron, one of the biggest towns on the island. Doesn't seem very busy today, but then it's 1:10, so everybody's eating. Well, I must be missing something. It's like one of those towns you arrive at and there's nobody there. It's a bit spooky. But there is a telephone box over there.
A gift from the town's twin in Essex. And look, we've found another one of those lanternes de mort.
Just went in there, I don't like it, I guess you never know if you can get out. Right, well this is as far as you can go on the Ile d'Orléans. End of the world here. All these rollers coming in. And actually it's quite cool here. Probably one day somebody will set off from round here on a boat and discover strange new places like Canada. Well, I don't know if it's worth looking out for. I might not set off today. So looking the other way, you've got the lighthouse, and it happens to be National Birdwatch Day today, apparently.
After leaving the island, I was heading back eastwards on a fairly main road when we were turfed off because of a road accident.
Well, I'm following all these on this detour out there now where they're going. And this is St. Trojan's Church at Rétoud.
On the way, I've tried to say something about the sculpture and carvings on these churches. They are full of symbols and meanings, which we think would have been well understood by people of the 11th and 12th century. For example, an animal, especially a carnivorous one, is a symbol of force, the destructive force which is in us all and which we must conquer. Any chimera, such as a centaur or a griffin, represents the duality of man, the internal struggle between good and evil. A bear child represents the soul, and human bodies in contorted or acrobatic positions are too complicated to explain. And one which we may understand today, the dove is a symbol of peace. But generally, we need to absorb the mindset, the intense spirituality of the 11th and 12th century, when the overriding thought in a person's mind was, how do I get to heaven? These sculptures constantly reminded that person. I've mentioned the Saint-Ange sermon several times, and we've seen it laid out on several of these churches. Breaking off for a moment, I should say that we are seeing several of these very small windows in these churches. As I was saying, we've seen that Saint-Ange sermon laid out in pictures and symbols. In my translation, the Saint-Ange sermon says, "Work, pray, fight evil and do good, and you will get to the eternal life." Now a short distance further eastwards brings us to Rioux. Of special note here is a Madonna and Child set in an almond-shaped mandola above the main doorway. And this church shows very clearly some examples of those original small windows.
Now this little village at the end of nowhere is the last place I expected to find them anyway, let alone to be open at 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon and in perfect order. Now this isn't on the list actually, but while we're passing we may as well get it. We're in Tesson.
Somewhere on the west front of this church are carvings of a pilgrim with a stick and a bandit holding an axe, a reminder of the dangers on the road to Compostela.
And behind me is the mairie, and over there some more. And just on the way through, this is Villars-en-Pons. We're in Pons, P-O-N-S. That's the Hotel de Ville. I think that must have been a local chateau or something, war memorial. Now this here looks a bit too big for the church I'm looking for. It's not the church now anyway. Exhibition hall.
I think what we can say here is that although Pons was a major stop on the route to Compostela, time was getting late. You can see it was 6:15 there.
I think there might be something down here. Well, maybe a bit further on down here. That could be it there.
Darkness was approaching, and I don't think I ever really found what I was looking for here. Still, I had rather a full day, seen plenty of Romanesque churches, enough for now anyway. Quite nice stations up the cross in this church, and enjoyed driving my new Peugeot.
And for the record, it's St. Martin's, that one.
But I must now get it back to Santa and give it up.